Hey, everybody. Thank you all for all your support. And without any further ado, it's my delight and pleasure to reintroduce fellow vlogger and legendary baseball broadcaster Vasu Vaddiparty. And
Terry, I'm not
Vasu,
so sure about that, but thanks.
well, I'm sure. How's that one?
Okay,
I
all
mean,
right.
I don't know of anybody who can say that they've met Tommy John and talked to him not once but twice. So there you are. And
Yeah.
as we know and everyone else knows, Tommy John sadly passed away last week at the age of 83. And so I immediately thought and was absolutely correct that Vasu would know the man. And this, about his legacy. And for those people who may not know what Tommy John surgery is, what is it? Why was it important? And what's the man like?
Well, the
Vasu.
man was a really good man. I mean, he knew baseball and he could talk baseball, and he was just a guy, as he always described himself. He was just a guy from Terre Haute, Indiana, who was going to go play baseball, and if he didn't get into baseball, he's back to Terre Haute, Indiana, and sell cars for his dad's car dealership or a friend's car dealership, because that's what he set out to do. He came into baseball. He was born in 1943, started in '63 with the Cleveland Indians when they were called the Indians for 2 years, basically a minor league guy. Then was traded to the White Sox and spent about 8 years with the White Sox, and then with the Dodgers for about 6 years, and then the Yankees for 4, and then various other teams as he got older. But 1975 was the year that he missed the whole year in the second half of '74. I started following baseball in '77, so I didn't know the entire story. But everybody knows who Tommy John is. Like, everybody knows who John Madden is nowadays for the game. Like, they don't even know he was a broadcaster. Some of the younger people, a great broadcaster, and then even more so, unlike you and I at our ages, don't even remember what a great coach he was. Well, Tommy John was a really good pitcher. He had 280. Let me see if I got this right. 288 wins and 231 losses. He himself should be in the Hall of Fame for the number of years that he's been there. And say, oh, longevity shouldn't count. Well, longevity in a pro sport counts for whatever, and I think that's a BS reason to not let somebody get in there, especially if you're successful. First of all, you had to be successful to pitch 26 years in the big leagues. But the UCL surgery, which is its original name, I can't pronounce Lou Gehrig's disease. I know it's ALS, and I know it's the acronym is lateral sclerosis, whatever it is, and that's
Sclerosis, something or other. But
yeah, right. Anyway, ALS, so Lou Gehrig's disease. So now nobody refers to the UCL or ulnar collateral ligament surgery other than Tommy John surgery. He was the first. He took a very unknown type of surgery where they take, and to do this in the camera, they take a healthy tendon from anywhere in your body and replace the tendon in your elbow. And
wow.
there's a lot of work to do that goes into that. So everybody says Tommy John. Well, now with science and medicine, obviously, Zennie, we know that living in Silicon Valley or having lived in Silicon Valley, in your case, that medical marvels have advanced big time. So now Tommy John surgery, probably more laser, probably more, I'm sure they have to do some things inside, but you can do a lot more, technically speaking, than you could back in 1974 when he was the first one. So he was a good pitcher before that surgery happened, and his elbow just blew out. And so what they did is Dr. Frank Jobe, who was the Dodgers doctor at the time, they were studying elbow damage because that's what pitchers were suffering from. And it ended careers back then in the 1970s. 70s and even the 80s because it took so long to get back, and there was a lot of hard work involved. And then Tommy John always said that if there's one thing that no one can ever question on is the hard. He said he would do the hard work to get back in. In those days, it would take you a year, 2 years, 18 months at the minimum to get back on the playing field. And so that's what it did. Half of '74, that was a World Series team, and he was a pitcher on that team. I'm looking at it, 13-3. Going into July into August with an ERA of 2.59 and 22 starts and 5 complete games. I think that's a complete game. Yeah, 5 complete games, which is unheard of nowadays too. No, I think the leader in complete games is 2 now in August, and everybody's tied for 1. And there's not even that many people. 5 is probably more than some teams combined in today's baseball. So he had 5 himself, and then he got hurt July and August. And so they did the surgery, his rehab. That was the World Series team. They got beat by the A's. We all know in the Bay Area where we live, where I live, and where you used to live. 3 straight championships for the A's that year. That was the third of their third championships, but he was not on that roster. And I, as a Dodgers fan, could contend that if he was on that roster, pitching 2 of those games, that they would have had a better shot than losing 5 games to the Oakland Athletics at that time. Great Oakland Athletics team. Vida Blue was a friend of mine. Good for the A's in those days. But I contend that the Dodgers would have made it a better series in '74 had he not been injured, because they would have had to gone with an opener or whatever the term that they're using now. So he was 13-3. And then he missed the whole year of '75. Came back in '76, mixed results, 10-10 for the Dodgers. They missed out winning the division that year. The Reds won. The Big Red Machine won that year. Then in '77, '78, 20-7, 17-10, and then he was a free agent when free agent started. They lost to the Yankees both those years, and then he went 21-9 in '79 with the Yankees, who didn't make the playoffs. In '80, the Yankees were in the playoffs against the Royals, and they lost to the Royals and George Brett in 1980. But he was 22-9 for the Yankees in 1980. So after his surgery, let me add this up real quick, because I just said that 30. I think it was 163 and 119 was his record after the surgery. So we're talking about post-surgery that nobody knew about. And Frank Jobe was the Dodgers doctor at that time. So he was the one that created this. And so now it's all referred to as Tommy John surgery. It's not, nobody remembers the pitcher, just like John Madden, just like the example we gave about John Madden. Everybody knows the game, not the coach, not the broadcaster. Everybody knows about TJ surgery. 35% of the active pitchers in Major League Baseball now have either gone through 1 or 2 surgeries. And in fact, I was just watching the Reds game today. There was a pitcher on the Reds, a reliever, 3 surgeries, and he came back from 3 surgeries. That's a lot of wear and tear on the elbow. And I pitched in college, not at the level of these guys, but 3 surgeries. 1 surgery is one thing. 2 surgeries is another thing. Now you're talking about 3 surgeries coming back. And TJ Anton is his name with the Cincinnati Reds. But 119 wins. So Dr. Jobe helped create this thing. Now a lot of pitchers are getting it. It's too bad. I think sometimes kids are getting it earlier than they need to now. That's part of the problem with the surgery, is that they think it's successful and they think it'll help. One of the benefits is you get your strength back. So in some cases, people throw harder than they did before. Now, I don't know I don't know the physics of it. I don't know the mechanics of it. I just know that that's where we are medically speaking, in terms of Tommy John surgery. So contributions to the game, Dr. Jobe is in the Hall of Fame. Tommy John presented him. Tommy John is not in the Hall of Fame as a player. He should get in either as a contributor or he should get in. Now it's posthumously, so now he may get in, just like Pete Rose and all the players are posthumous. Now the voting committee says posthumously. Well, he should have been in while he was alive, as a pitcher. So now it's referred to as TJ surgery. It's like, oh, he had TJ this, and this. He's going to miss the rest of the year. Maybe come back the second half of the year, but it's a lot shorter in recovery time. But he was a great pitcher.
That the guy who has his very name named
correct
after an ailment is not in the Hall of Fame.
Correct. Exactly.
I don't know.
Individually. Yeah, I know. And Dr. Jobe is as a contributor. So that's the funny part about it. It was a joke, because I heard him say this a long time ago. He said, when he asked him, he said, he goes, when you repair my elbow, just give me Sandy Koufax's fastball, or just give me Koufax's fastball. And then when he went back to the mound, he goes, well, I got Mrs. Koufax's fastball. So apparently, but it was all changeups. It was curveballs. It was changeups. It was some sliders, but he didn't throw nearly as hard back then. Now some pitchers with the way it is, in some cases, some are throwing harder than they were before.
Was he an easy guy to talk to, or
very easy to talk to back in the day? In fact, back in the day, I'm sure it happened in the Bay Area. I know it happened a few times after I moved up here, but back in the day, every Saturday or Sunday before a night game or before night games, Dodger players would go around to several malls in the Los Angeles area, and they sign for an hour or two to people that are coming into like Macy's or whatever the old, I can't remember the old department store in Torrance, but I remember seeing Davy Lopes, and I remember seeing a couple of malls. I lived in Manhattan Beach, so there were a couple of malls in Hawthorne and someplace like that, maybe JCPenney or something like that back in the day. So there would be a bunch of guys playing around. So he would be there. He was there with a guy named Doug Rao, and I remember going over there with my next door neighbor and his mom, and we went over there. It was just easy to talk to. What's your name? How you doing? They always love talking to kids. And he could talk. And he was a broadcaster after he finished. He broadcast for the Twins. He broadcast a little bit for the Yankees. He broadcast a little bit for the Angels. He finished out in 1989, and he started in 1963. There are pitchers that he's played with in the 60s that weren't even born yet that he was teammates of in the 80s in some cases. Yeah. So that was really weird to hear him say that. But he was an easy guy to talk to, and he loved talking pitching. I got the chance. I'll tell you the first time I met him in 1995. My friend Paul Lanning, we were big card collectors, and he was a SID at Fullerton Junior College. He had an internship with the Dodgers Farm Club in Albuquerque. So he had network connections through that. Bill Russell was manager then after he retired. So when he went to Fullerton, he reached out to his contacts, and he got a bunch of Dodgers and some Angels to come into Fullerton. And so the place was packed, Dodger fans, some Angel fans, et cetera, et cetera. He asked me to come down and help because he had a lot of students helping him. So I said, as long as I can sit next to Steve Garvey, who was my favorite player growing up, I'll do whatever you want for the whole weekend. And that was the first weekend I met Vida Blue, actually, because his whole thing was he wanted me to be responsible for the time that he sat his 3 hours watching Vida Blue, who he grew up as a childhood fan of in the 70s and 80s when we were in school, or junior high school and high school, when I knew Paul Lanning. Shout out to Paul Lanning. Hopefully he's watching right now. I'll share this with him. But anyway, so got to talk to him. They didn't have anybody to take him to the airport the next day. So on that Sunday, I ended up, I got a phone call from Paul, and he said, Tommy John needs a ride back to John Wayne Airport. Now, if anybody knows anything about LA traffic, even Orange County traffic back in the day, Fullerton to Orange County, even on a Sunday, still took like an hour to go. And so I'm like going to miss the rest of the signees there. And so I'm like, I want to come back in time. But you know what? That was the best hour I had, because he was just talking baseball. He was talking about his time in Oakland. He lived in Woodside. He spent like half a year in Oakland before he was traded back to the Angels. And we just talked and talked and talked. And then I met him at a couple of Dodgers games as an alumnus. They came back and did some stuff as alumnus. And he was just, older guys are different. It's like the way people in the Bay Area here know how Mike Krukow and Dwayne Kuiper are, or Greg Pop and Ray Fosse, or Vida Blue when he was broadcasting. They just love to talk ball. It's a different day and age, business and everything else, but it's a different day and age. But they just love to talk ball, and you set some of these guys up, and you can tell some of these guys are going to broadcast. Even nowadays, Sean Estes and Javier Lopez, they just like to talk ball. You wind them up and you ask them a question, and they just go for like 20 minutes. It's perfect. Kind of like what I'm doing here.
Yeah, it's something that struck me the other day. A Cubs game came on out here. Cubs were getting hammered by St. Louis 2-11 at the time.
Yeah.
But the broadcasters, because I haven't watched much baseball, and I thought I can't put my finger on why I haven't, especially considering that I made a game called the Oakland Baseball Sim World. I started a company called Sports Business Simulations around that game, right? You would think I was now what I was then, which is basically a junkie figuring out, what statistically baseball players were doing.
Right.
But, nonetheless, I watched this game, and what struck me, what just grabbed me by the throat, were the stories by the broadcasters.
Correct.
And I thought, wow, you love it all over again. I'm like, God, yeah, that's what makes baseball so cool. It's people, people talking to each other, people knowing people having these exchanges, and that stuff of stories really keeps the culture going, huh?
That's why baseball's best on the radio.
Yeah.
Because you got time in between pitches to tell stories and recount history. Everything, like Vin Scully was the best. I grew up on Vin Scully as a Dodgers announcer, and he was the best at telling a story. And his stories would start, even if they started with 2 outs, he'd find a way to finish it at the 3rd out, or he'd start at the beginning of the inning, a long inning, and the story would just keep going until the 3rd out. But he always knew when to start a story and when to end a story. And it's just the intertwining of stories in between pitches, in between batters, in between innings, in terms of baseball on the radio was the best. And football doesn't translate as well on the radio. Basketball doesn't translate as well on the radio. People watch hockey. You can't really listen to hockey if you don't follow the game close enough to listen to hockey. I think basketball you can listen on the radio because it's up and down. You can feel the action on the radio. Bill King was great at that too. Broadcasting has a way to do it, but broadcasting on the radio baseball is the best. Baseball is the best at doing that.
Although I will have to put a mark in for Bill King as the Raiders announcer, because
Absolutely.
I remember, I'll never forget this, because even though I had the TV on, I had the radio on, and it was 3rd and 11, if memory serves, in the middle of the second quarter, between the Raiders and the Minnesota Vikings in Super Bowl 11.
Yeah.
And I think it was Sammy White, due to catch a post pattern over the middle, was more like an angle pattern than a post pattern. But Bill King says, Tarkenton goes back to pass, throws it, and he is creamed.
Yeah, is that the Tatum hit?
Tatum hit.
That's the Tatum hit. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, the helmet flew off.
He is creamed. Helmet flying one way, chin strap flying the other. Yeah. Holy Toledo.
Holy Toledo. That's a 15-yard penalty now. But yeah, that's the whole point. No, absolutely. Bill King was, but the broadcasting wise, that's we grew up. We're losing some things. I know we're talking about Tommy John, but we're losing some things. And he was a good storyteller too. And when he was broadcasting, he had the stories as well too. And the guys that have played sometimes make the best stories, but even the broadcasters have the best stories as well too. And it's just a matter of intertwining it amongst the game without losing the game that's going on right there at the moment. And sometimes it gets away, but we're losing that because now everybody's kind of cookie cutter in terms of there's a way to do it. Because guys like Harry Carey and Vince Scully, Jack Buck and Bill King, they don't get hired now because there's a way to do it. And it's not the folksy style of it. They want the action, they want the pitch, they want the result, and they want the outcome. And that's really all it is. It's kind of sad from that standpoint of not having the baseball story, but that's a different generation. That's why, I'm probably guilty of it too, because I just want to make sure I call the action correctly.
Do you think that Tommy John's story leads itself to a movie, even if it's,
I think I'm sure there's a movie, and I'm sure now that he's passed away, I'm sure that somebody's probably already thought of it. I don't know how, if it's too much baseball intertwined, if it's not like The Rookie, where there's a story that goes with that, for Jim Morris, who also had Tommy John surgery. He went through that twice, came back, and of course he was the 35-year-old rookie for Tampa Bay after being a high school physics teacher and a baseball coach there. And he still could throw. That's the Disney movie, The Rookie, Dennis Quaid's story.
Right.
Excuse me. But I certainly think there's a book, certainly a book about Tommy John surgery and the history, with the fact that 35 to 40% of the active pitchers and players, and 35% of the pitchers,
right.
Not to mention the position players that have gone through that as well too, shoulder surgeries and elbow surgeries and all that too. But to revolutionize it at that point, to have a piece of a healthy tendon from another part of the body to go into the elbow to fix the joint and make the arm work again on a major league level. It's one thing to live in
no side effects,
The what?
No side effects.
Well, there are side effects. The training that goes through that, but a little bit. You're never going to be 100. Once you have surgery, somebody who's had a couple of surgeries, you're never going to go back to 100%. So it's just a matter of getting back to, but recovering and getting back to close to where you were is a lot better nowadays than it would be back then. That's the point.
Right. Hey, I want to get you before we have to let you go.
Yeah.
What do you think about what happened to Greg Papa and Mike Silver at the hands of
Greg Silver.
I don't know why I'd say Mike Silver. But as long as I've known Greg and both, I've known Mike Silver since October 19th of 1986.
Yeah.
Cal UCLA. That's when we
met.
Right.
Yeah.
But what do you think about Cumulus KNBR firing them? And actually, I know who did it.
Yeah.
Specifically, but name aside, what are your thoughts?
Well, obviously for PR terms, it was bad. Greg Papa and I have known each other for almost 20 years. I met Greg Silver 2 years ago. I never really talked to his dad very well. That is his dad, Mike Silver. Never really talked to Mike Silver very much. And Greg Silver, I met 2 years ago. He was a producer there. And other than running into him, I never really talked to him until a couple of years ago when he took over for the show. Cumulus is a company. I don't even know if it's Susquehanna, I think. But the company is based out of Georgia, where you are. And they own multiple stations, and they were cutting back because radio is kind of going by that way. They're cutting the high salaries back and bringing in people. So yeah, it was bad timing because he's sick, but his contract was up, and so they weren't going to renew his contract. Like I can tell you, out here in the Bay Area, the radio people I know out here, the Bone, Lamont got cut, Chris Jackson, and a couple other people got cut. I know Greg Kinn, when he was at K Fox, was cut as well too. So it was a business decision without going into how it affects people. It's just like pro sports, right? They cut your favorite players and people get upset, but that's the nature of the business. And it could have been done better from a PR standpoint, but that's not the way the conglomerates work now. They just cut to take over the bottom line, to ease the bottom line.
Here's what bothers me about the move. Yeah, I get that people get cut. Yeah, I get people get unemployed and all that sort of thing. But if you're dealing with somebody who has a life-threatening illness, well, obviously the last thing that's going to help them stay alive is them being fired from their job. So, do what you can.
Well, let's be fair. It's not being fired. They weren't being renewed.
Okay. Yeah. My point is, regardless of the details, get some money in the person's pocket.
Right.
Because that's a special case. If you're talking about somebody that's an A-lister,
then
you just don't touch them.
Right.
That's the best way to stay out of trouble. Someone say, well, don't you have to think about the other people? Well, so, my whole point is, if the other people are going through that and they have the kind of high profile that he does, then I think it's a no-brainer that you just leave him alone.
That'd be easy to do, but if he's not on the air, I don't see it's a PR nightmare with bad timing, but his contract was up, and they just made a business decision without going into. They're not talking about people. They're just making business decisions without.
My pushback to that thought is, I can make a business decision and say it's good for business for me to keep them on, right?
Without a doubt.
And
or at least keep them.
I don't.
At least keep them employed.
Yeah, I don't cotton to the idea that because something is bad, you have to couch it as a business decision. Sometimes bad decisions are just bad; they're stupid.
Correct.
I know. There's too much meanness in society. I can go on a diatribe about that.
Right.
And, it's like, hey, let's just all be good to each other and have a good story to tell.
Yeah.
And it's one guy that you say, but you know what? The noise that it creates, one way or the other,
without a doubt,
either it would reinforce the idea of keeping people on in a society that appears content to treat people as garbage, and that doesn't do any good for the economy, because if you're paying somebody like that and they're a good voice for you, that makes people feel good, it gets people into the bars and everything. Just let me ask you, how many people do you think might go to a bar and say, I just want to hear Greg Papa and all that? And quite a few, right?
There's still a lot of people. I still want to hear Greg Papa.
So guess what? They just took money out of the barkeep's pocket.
Could be, yeah.
So my point, they don't. Some thinking has to go in here.
I do, and I think radio's taking a hit. Radio, the medium, is taking a hit. It's going all across the country because we're in a generation now where everything is instant gratification. People are streaming like we're doing.
Yep.
People are podcasting. People are downloading and streaming. Everything's instant gratification. Nobody has time for a 4-hour radio show at the time that it's on. Now, even the radio stations, you can replay those shows on a podcast through the station's website. So,
but that's what I'm saying. Here's my point. A lot of people want long form, and like, for example, you might think right now we're not getting viewers, but what's going on is that the viewers that we're actually getting, because of the YouTube algorithm design, it's not showing. That's going to change on the 24th of this month, so that you will see the impressions and everything else, and we'll get more views, which is the way it should have been, because they were letting TikTok eat their lunch with this stuff. And they finally, and then they made, remember I said, put out that edict among us. I would say, hey, look, no shorts, because they don't make us any money, right?
Right.
But now we have a reason to do the long form, knowing that the views, not only views, but here's the dirty little secret, Vasu. Engaged views, which actually pay us, are going to increase by 45% at least, because of the fact that the impressions views that attract people feed right into them sticking around and becoming an engaged view.
We're a different model, though. Radio's a different model than what we're doing podcasting wise, because people got to understand that radio people are independent contractors. And so they're not, it's not that they're firing them as a regular employee and they're losing their benefits. The money that they're making as an independent contractor allows them to work other things, to be able to make money to pay their own benefits. And so that's the problem. Is right now the 49ers have taken care of him very well, if we're talking about Greg Papa. So he's able to do certain things, but he's not able to make the money that he was making or used to making, because he had 3 different jobs going on. And that's just the way it works, and that's just the way it's business. But I agree with you.
I don't
agree with you. It's a bad move. It's a bad look.
Right. You're saying it's the way it works. I disagree. It's the way they do it. And my point is that, see, the beauty of being in this for, according to YouTube, this channel is 20 years old as of April 21st of this year, 20 years old. Is that we have our own model and other people have their model.
Right. That's the point I'm trying to make.
You're absolutely right.
Good or bad is it's the model right now.
But what I'm saying is their model is wrong. And the reason why I say it's wrong is because they don't pool together all of their material from the different types of meal they do into one money pool and then go out that way. All right. The way they do it individually is I would never do it that way. Like for here, we have different ways of people making money, as you remember in the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
When the government was very nice to us. Ding. So my point is that even though this company hasn't yet gotten the money it should get and deserves, that'll come. But the model in terms of sharing, it's like the NFL. Imagine if the NFL had a model that didn't have a central pool of money, right? And that's essentially what we're talking about. It's like every person for themselves. Oh, it's like, just pull it together and then make sure you share it among the member people, like the member clubs, right?
I agree. I agree. It's just a matter of what the mentality is of the media nowadays. Like we're a different generation, so we work things differently, and we have a different mindset as to the young executives and the young people and the younger people.
Old people think better.
I couldn't disagree. The older I get, the better I think I am. So that's the way it is. But
by the way, I'm 34 years old. Austin.
I know. I'm 58. I know.
Yeah. No, I on my 64th birthday, I put out a video that was around a song that actually Google AI came up with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it said 34 going on 34. He's not 34. He's not 64. He's 34.
Right.
Which it was funny. I thought it was funny, at least, because I think the realization is in my mind. There's my idea. Like, I don't feel like I'm fully an adult because I've never been a parent.
I guess that's my issue then too.
That's just the way I can't. And my other friends have kids and everything else. And but I believe, and it's not that I haven't tried, but I went through a place where, I would say in Oakland, I went on the street where like 5 of the women that I dated all said they were lesbian after. I thought, what is going on? And I realized then it says something about Oakland that people don't talk about much. It's like, hey, what is this? It's, as a straight guy, can you get married in Oakland? I mean, I know a couple of people who have, but they're not the majority.
I'm the last person to comment on that because I can't figure society out from that standpoint. But anyways, Zennie, I'm glad we got a chance to talk.
You got it. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.
I'll get you out. Hey,
RIP Tommy John, and congratulations on the surgery being named after you, and that will live a lot longer than all of us will, because that surgery will be around forever and ever and ever. So a good guy, a good contribution to baseball. Hopefully he gets in the Hall of Fame sometime soon.
Hey folks, that ends the stream. Thanks, Vasu, and you don't have to move a muscle. So I got